Welcome to my channel, y'all. Welcome to my channel. We got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to show you guys exactly how to request your student loan documents. There's so much information right now that is going on in the realms of federal student loans. I feel like it's just been forever. When there's a lot of information that is out there, it creates a lot of confusion. Not only when there's confusion, then that creates panic. And a lot of borrowers I feel, are panicked or confused is because you don't know what's going on necessarily with your own student loan account. And even with all the information out here, all of these proposals, all of these bills, there's just a lot. But first and foremost, you have to know with everything that is happening right now, is that you know exactly what is going on within your own student loan records. You have to know what's in those records. You have to know what has happened with your particular account. And the only way to do that is to request the documentation. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, okay? Because there are decisions that are being made right now, and not only decisions that are being made that are affecting you financially currently, but also decisions that are going to be made that could potentially change the landscape of your future financially as things are progressing throughout these systems, especially with the current administration. We have a lot of policies that are trying to change, a lot of policies that have changed, and those are done without transparency. Not only that, a lot of times without input as a borrower. They don't even get your input about it. Things are just happening without you being able to, say yay or nay to what's taking place, and you just have to put up with it. But there's processes and procedures to everything. And as a student loan borrower, you don't have to sit back and feel like you are just out here and that there's nothing that you can do. But like I said, first and foremost, you have to know what is happening within your student loan account, understanding what type of student loans that you have, and what has taken place within the time that you have been encapsulated or stuck in this crazy student loan system. So let's talk about that. First and foremost, before we get started, my name is Tammy Arrington. I am the owner of Tammy A1 Consulting. The information that I'm going to show you, we're going to go directly to the source of the information. None of the information that I'm going to provide to you constitutes any financial, personal, or legal advice, but I will show you as we go through this. If you need legal advice, if you need an attorney, because I am not an attorney, if you need an attorney, how to be able to get access to one. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the student aid account. One thing, as far as what is happening, as far as the current administration trying to change how forgiveness programs are accessible, what defines a public servant, all of these things, all of this information that's coming, it feels like all at once. It's important to know what you actually signed up for, and that is having an understanding of that master promissory note. So let's go to the student aid website. We're going to start there. And then, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and show you all the rest of the information on how to request documentation via the Privacy Act, also via FERPA and Administrative Procedures Act, and then also the Freedom of Information Act. I'm going to show you how to get that information. Not only that, I'm going to provide you with the verbiage in order for you to utilize to get that information, because I know everybody's busy. But even still, we got to slow down a little bit and we got to get information. We got to get our credit reports, all of that. But I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go to the student aid website. So we're going to go to studentaid.gov, okay? Let me bring my screen up. I'm going to switch around for a second. And we're going to go to the student aid website, okay? All right, so when we get to the student aid website, like I said, it's important to understand what is in the master promissory note. So I'm just going to type that in. Y'all, when it comes to the student aid website, the student aid website is your hub for information. I can't tell you, if you are just curious about what is going on and how to understand different programs and procedures and processes, go to the student aid website. Everything that you need to know about anything that you have signed to obtain your federal student loans is here in the student aid website. If you're just lost and don't know where to start, always go down here to the bottom of the screen. And this is where you can get all your forms, the resources, the data center announcements, everything that you need. Just start here, okay? If you're confused about everything up here, go down here and it'll help you with the information, okay? All right, so let's go look at the master promissory note really, really quickly, okay? Because like I said, it's important that you understand what you signed up for, so that way you're like, okay, all right, things are changing. What exactly do I need to do? In order to get your copy of the master promissory note, and not every borrower's master promissory note is in their student aid account, and that could be for a number of reasons. But generally, the master promissory notes, and they change every so often, but you can have one master promissory note over um, a lifetime, well, not necessarily a lifetime, over certain periods of your loans. But let me show you exactly what the information is, okay? This is just a demo, and you can view this on the student aid website. That way you're able to see what a promissory note looks like. if you're not able to access yours. To get your copy, when you log into the student aid account, and you'll see all of your information here. Once you get through the identification part, you'll go under documents, my documents, and that is where you're able to see your master promissory note, okay? But for the sake of this, I just want to show you exactly what the information is and what you have signed up for when you took out your federal student loans, okay? So there's always an agreement. When you sign up, there's a master promissory note agreement, but also it tells you what your rights are, what your certifications, what you're requesting, your authorizations, and that word here, your understandings. Even if you did not understand the master promissory note, when you took it out, you are certifying that you understand the information that is in here. All right, so we're going to scroll on past this, okay? But this is just your understandings here, okay? I'm going to go to the second page, okay? All right, so these are the terms and conditions of the master promissory note, and this is important that you understand that. Because right now, especially with things that are changing, with regulations that are changing, rules that are changing, repayment plans that are changing, repayment plans that are being removed, all of these things that are being proposed, a lot of ours are like, how can they actually do that? How is this administration allowed to do these things? Well, let's read the master promissory note really quickly. So it tells you this section summarizes some of the major terms and conditions of your loans. You can find more detailed information about the terms in your borrower's rights and responsibilities that accompanies the master promissory note. Each topic covered in this section of the MPN is followed by the number of the item in the BRI that provides additional information. They tell you that they contract with servicers to process direct loan payments, deferments, and forbearances, so forth and so forth. You can go back and read that. But one thing about the master promissory note that's important is the laws that apply to this master promissory note. And they give you all of the laws that are applicable to the master promissory note. And it's important. No, you don't have to know the laws in and out, but that you are going over these laws to get some sort of understanding of what these laws mean and how, if anything is changed within these laws, how it affects the master promissory note. So they tell you the terms of the master promissory note are determined in accordance with the Higher Education Act of 1965, as amended the HEA. Our regulations and other federal laws and regulations throughout the MPN, we refer to these laws and regulations as the Act. They tell you any notice we are required to send you about your loans, even if you do not receive the notice, will be effective if it is sent by first-class mail to the most recent address that we have for you, emailed to an email address you have provided, or sent by another method of notification that is permitted or required by the Act. You must immediately notify the servicer of a change in your contact information or status. So what that means, again, if your contact information is not up to date in your student aid account or with your loan servicer, you want to make sure that you're getting that information updated. Because like they tell you, if anything changes, if anything is amended, anything with the Higher Education Act or anything with this master promissory note, they're going to send any of those notices to you to the latest information that they have on file for you. And as long as they send that information out by first class mail to that most recent address or email address that you have provided, it is considered as received, okay? So you want to make sure that your information is up to date, okay? Depending on the type of loan that you have as well, y'all, there's different regulations, there are different rules that is based on that particular loan. So that's why it's important that if you have loans with the Department of Education, you have federal student loans, you have those direct loans, FFEL loans, whatever type of loan that you have, you want to know the rules and the regulations that is centered around that particular loan, okay? But all right, so it tells you more about the type of loans that you receive, the time limitations, use of the master promissory note to make more than one loan. So this master promissory note can be used to make multiple loans to you to pay your educational expenses over a period of up to 10 years. You did not want to receive or you do not want to receive more than one loan under this MPN, you must notify your school or your servicer in writing. So a lot of you may be looking for multiple master promissory notes, but you may have only signed one time. Because like it says, it can be used to make multiple loans to you to pay your educational expenses over a period of up to 10 years. Now that can change for some other reasons, but for the sake of this, this is basically if you have just one master promissory note, it can be used for multiple loans, okay? All right, so let's keep going. This is just more or less about interest rates and all of those things. Late charges and collections, if you're dealing with that, you want to read more about that. Default, you want to read about that information. Conditions why they may require you to pay the account in full immediately. But these are also more laws. Graham, Leach, Bliley Act notice. These are things that are supposed to be provided to you as a borrower. And these are things that you can request as well to see when the Department of Education or when the loan servicers provided this information. And as we go to the Freedom of Information Act, the privacy notice, all of those things, these are things that you can ask for if you just want to ask when these things were sent out to you, to see if these were actually provided to you. Because remember, when you're dealing with the Department of Education and you're trying to find out what has taken place with your student loan account, you want to know everything that has happened because there may be some harm that has been caused to you, or there may not be. But if there is harm, you want to be able to see that so that way you're not just filing complaints just blindly out here without any proof to to support any type of complaints or allegations that you have. Okay. All right. So this is more or less with the master promissory note agreement, more about your borrower's rights and responsibility. Again, more laws that apply to the master promissory note. So we know the Higher Education Act. We talked about that as amended. If things change, that can also change the master promissory note. So they tell you that amendments to the Act may change the terms of the master promissory note. Any amendment to the Act that change the terms of this master promissory note will be applied to your loans in accordance with the effective date of the amendment. Depending on the effective date of the amendment, amendments to the Act may modify or remove a benefit that existed at the time you signed your master promissory note. So this is how, when we have all these changes that are happening, how they are able to do that. And this is why it's important that we know now, especially with everything that is happening. And a lot of borrowers, you just didn't read this information. And for some borrowers, you took out loans when you were 18 years of age, didn't even know that to even read these documents. And then it's a lot to go over. But we are now aware. So if you are someone and you have students that are entering into college, it's important that they are understanding what they are signing up for. So you're not going into these things blindly and not knowing what you signed up for. More or less, this talks about more information about your amounts that you can receive, all of that information. You can go back and read that. But this is talk about interest calculation, loan fees, all of the late charges, all of those things. It's important that you need to go read about. But one thing too, as far as with the master promissory note, this talks about how you receive your money, how you use the money, but we don't need to also how the information that you must report after you receive your loan, your grace period, things that you may want to know about. It talks about the repayment plans. Some of you have been moved around into different repayment plans, who have been placed into forbearances and deferments. And when you're moved into forbearances or deferments, or you're moved into different income-driven repayment plans, that can actually change your interest. So things can happen to how your interest is applied, how it is compounded. All kind of things can happen that you want to see. When did these things take place? When you put in that request for a new repayment plan or whatever you did, or forbearance or deferment, how those calculations changed your payments or changed that interest and all of those things. So you want to be able to see all of that information there, okay? All right, so this is just more or less about the repayment plans defaulting, information that they report, all of that deferment and forbearances that you can go back and read over. Some of you, as far as borrower's defense, I talk a lot about borrower's defense because you're able to put in an application if you attended a school that committed some type of fraud or misrepresentations, different type of things under borrower's defense that you're able to put in an application. I have a video about all of that. Go back a few and you'll see a whole video I did on borrower's defense. But one thing about the Department of Education and in this master promissory note is that they do not guarantee the quality of the academic programs provided by the schools that participate in federal student financial aid programs. You cannot have your loans discharged solely because you do not complete the education paid for with your loan, are unable to obtain employment in the field of study for which your school provided training, or are dissatisfied with or do not receive the education you paid for with this loan. This within itself is enough for you to make sure that you get a hold of your documents that you have with these schools, with these loan services, and within the Department of Education to make sure, okay, they did not guarantee that you receive a quality education, but there are still processes and procedures with the dispersing of these funds to these schools and how these things were applied and things of that nature that you want to make sure were done properly, okay? And how they calculated payments, all of those things. You just want to make sure that all of your accounts are correct, especially because if you are in an income-driven repayment plan, it's important to know how those payments were calculated and how they applied your payments and things of that nature, because that is your ticket to get your loans discharged. And if they have misapplied payments, didn't properly count things, then that could, have you in your loans for even longer than what is necessary. Okay, so that's just a little bit about the master promissory note. Let's go into talking about the records and how to get your records, okay? All right, so I actually created a guide, okay? And this guide is going to be on my website. You'll be able to get this guide directly on my website. And basically what this guide is going to do is to help you as a federal student loan borrower. And this is the reason why I created it. It is to empower you as a federal student loan borrower because it's important that you understand your rights and the systems that are in place to protect you, because these systems are in place to protect you as a federal student loan borrower. The Department of Education, loan servicers, these institutions, they cannot just go around doing whatever it is that they feel that they want to do to you as a federal student loan borrower and that you're just supposed to lay down and just take it. That is not how this works. So I created this guide to help you understand not only what your rights is, but to get you engaged in finding the information that is available to you, so that way you're able to get it. Okay. All right. So in this guide, like I said, I go through all this information here to help you understand your legal grounds, borrower's defense to repayment, all of this. I show you what is FERPA, what you can request under FERPA, all of this information here that I provide for you. Okay. But what I did was also, because I know, let me get through it. All right. When it comes to requesting information, sometimes but you just don't know what to request or how to get the verbiage together in order to request the documentation. So I wanted to make it easy for you in order to do that. In some of these systems, you're able to submit information online. What that means for you is that with this information that I have provided, and I have multiple different letters that you can submit for a privacy record request. Not only that, your FERPA records request, also your Freedom of Information request, also your loan servicer, a letter to send to your loan servicer, to request those documents from your loan servicer. Complaint letters, if you want to file those complaints, because a lot of borrowers have been harmed. If you want to file those complaints, you can do that. Also, Department of Treasury records. We have borrowers who are in collections. And then also public service loan forgiveness and income driven repayment violations under the Administrative Procedures Act. Okay. So all of that information is here, but what I want to show you is how to actually utilize the letter, okay? So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to actually use the information, okay? So we're going to go to how you can request for freedom of information, okay? Because what you can do is there's different agencies that house different information about you as a student loan borrower, and depending on the type of records that you want, you have to know what agency it is that you are seeking to get the information for. So first and foremost, and all of this information is here, but they tell you before you request and for the freedom of information, and also in the kit that I created, it'll show you what documents you can request. And I forgot to show you that, but it'll show you exactly what you can request from these agencies, depending on what it is that you want. And then I have the letter in there for you to, if you're going to request the information online, you can just cut and paste it into the request, or you can take the letter there, plug in your information, print it out, and then mail it off with you along with your certification of identity, okay? But what you can do is here, they have a search tool on how you can search for different agencies, okay? And what you want to do, okay? All right. Actually, no, that's not the one. Let's see. Let me go back. Sorry. There's so many things you can click on. Okay. So let's go back to the search tool. No, before you request, that's what we want. Okay. And then what we can do is we can do Department of Education. Okay. And then we'll hit search. And what'll happen here is it'll give you all of the information in regards to the Department of, and like this is overload of information, but it'll show you all the things about the Department of Education, what it's about, and videos, everything that you need to know. But that's just to show you how that part works, okay? But here we got research, okay? Do your research before you request, identify the right agency, and what happens next. So before you do, so what they want you to do before you request any documents is to go and search for it through the different government sites. Now, we can do searches all you want, okay? But if you don't find what you're looking for, or just not able to, you just don't want to work the website, you can always do their search tool or just go straight ahead and start your request, okay? But this here where it tells you to do your research before your request, but start a specific request with a specific agency. So depending on the agency that you're looking for, if it's the Department of Education, the Department of Treasury, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whatever the case may be, that is where you can type the information in, okay? All right, and what it's going to do is it'll bring up the information. So Department of Education, okay? And right here, it tells you what the processing time is, and this was in 2024. the records that you're able to request, what their agency missions is, and then it also has all of the contact information, okay? But you continue the Freedom of Information Act request. They tell you before you start your request, here are a few tips for writing your request. The description of the records you're requesting, the scope of your request, be as clear as possible, specific, indicate date ranges if applicable, provide enough detail so the agency can determine which records are being requested, okay? So then you're going to hit that start. And this is where you're able to put all of your information in, okay? And this is where, with the information that I provided for you, that you're just going to cut and paste the information in here. Now, mind you, you get 10,000 characters here, 10,000 character spaces in this particular box. And that includes your periods, your commas, whatever the case may be. You get all of that here. So when you look at the letters that I provided, let me bring that back up. All right, I thought I must have closed it out. Let me bring it back up. Oh yeah, when I clicked in it, it closed it. Let me bring it back up. Okay. Okay, let's bring that back up. Bring the screen back over. All right, so when you bring the information back up, okay, and basically what you do is whatever section of it that you want, okay, depending on what record that you want, you can just basically here highlight it, copy it, and then you're going to paste the information directly into the document here, okay? So you just repeat, that's all you're going to do. Cut and paste it in there. If there's anything else additional, and actually what you can do as well, if you want to take the actual letter that that's created, you can save it. So once you go and you update the letter to make it match to what you want, and you save the file, you can go ahead and just re-upload the letter here again, so that way you can upload that document or anything else that you need, any other additional documentation, because with this request here, you have to certify your, there's a certification of identity you're able to, and that's all in the document here. That's all in the kit that I created. You're able to see the certification here. I actually have all of that here. So you're able to do that. You can just click on the link here, because I put the link in there for you. You're going to open it, and it'll take you directly to it. So when you're doing your privacy request, it's going to bring you right up to the document that you'll need, okay? So you fill it out, type your information in here, because this is just certifying who you are, okay? So you have to make sure you upload that. So you put that information here, save it, and that is where you're going to start uploading all your documentation together, okay? There's also fees as well. There could be fees, but in my letters, I also put for you to get a waiver of fees, because the information that you're requesting is information that is not for any type of commercial use. This is just for your information, and it's your records. So this is where they ask you about the fee waiver and all of that information there. So you're able to put that in. Same thing with the privacy. Let's go back to that one. So that's the freedom of information. Let's click out of that. And then we're going to go to the privacy. Let's go to that one. Let me make this bigger so that I can see it. Okay. All right, so let's go to the privacy. Where did I put it? Let me see. Let me click over here. Let's see, where did I put it? Make it bigger. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to the Privacy Act. There it is. It's right under what is the Privacy Act of 1974. So when you get into it, it'll show you. When you get into the actual the guide, it'll be right under what is the Privacy Act of 1974. The link is there. But here's your Privacy Act request form. And they tell you here the same exact thing. You can cut and paste here as well. Okay. And then you can they give you the different ways that you could send this. Okay. So with the Privacy Act, this is the actual form. Let's go back. You can submit it online. Okay. Which is where we just left, the Freedom of Information Act portal. You can submit it via fax or mail, and they give you all the information here, okay? And that's also in the template letters as well that you're able to do. but you have to send that certification of identity and consent that I showed you previously. So make sure that when you're submitting these requests that you're providing that as well. Okay. Now the Department of Treasury, they request that you have an authorization form, which is also in the guide as well. So if you need that, I have the link and everything. It's all in there for you. Okay. But that is how you get the information. Another thing as well, y'all, even in the guide that I created, one thing that's important to know when it comes to these loan servicers and them actually doing business in your state, these companies they have license. And what you can do as well, and this is when you're filing these complaints, if you're submitting complaints, they have registered agents. And let me show you something here, okay? So what you can do is you can just go to Google. And then for me, being in Ohio, you can do Ohio business search, okay? And first thing that you do is for me and for you, you would go to your state, whatever your state is, and you can just do business search. Okay. And then I'm going to launch business search. And then I'm also going to put in the name of the servicer. Okay. Because they have to be registered in your state in order to do business. Okay. So what we do is we look for the information on the business. Okay. So we see that they have it active. And what I'm looking for, um, is to see who is the registered agent over MOHELA. So we have the information here. So the Higher Education Loan Authority of the state of Missouri. So you're able to file if you have complaints. You've been trying to get things rectified through these loan servicers and they haven't been doing their jobs and they're doing business in your state. They have a registered agent where you can submit your complaints to as well. But you're also able to look at their information to see exactly what they do. So it looks like the general nature of the business conducted by this registrant. Student loan servicing, student loan debt buying, student loan debt collection. So these are debt collectors. So they have registered agents, okay? Not only that, they also have bonds. And another way that you can file a complaint in Ohio, and every state is different. Not every debt collector, depending on your state, have to be licensed or bonded, but depending on how your state is. But if so, another way to do is go to NMLS, okay, Consumer Access, okay? And this is another way, another avenue that you could submit a complaint against these loan servicers, okay? If you start requesting documentation, but you first want to make sure that you are going through the proper ways. If you've already reached out to MOHELA, Navient, well, not Navient because they're no longer, shouldn't be servicing. But if you have went to these companies and they have not provided you with the information you requested, this is your next avenue, okay? Is to file a complaint against their bonds, okay? All right, so let's put this in. It's making me do a security check 5EX U6. Okay, check the box. Okay, hit continue. Okay, and MOHELA, we'll hit search. Okay, higher education loan authority, and look at all that. Look at all these different regulators in the different states. Look at all these different licenses and things that they have. Okay, but here, and we will hit small loan license, submit to regulator. Okay. And that is where you can start your other process of filing a complaint with the Department of Commerce, okay? But this is where you will go. So these are other avenues, y'all. Like, you don't have to just sit and allow yourself to be harmed by these companies. If you did your processes and, you're not getting any leeway and you start filing those complaints. And like I said, and I am not an attorney, I am not a lawyer or anything of that nature. But if you have to go and you have to start filing lawsuits against these companies, and you have every right to do so, after you have did everything that you needed to do and you still are being harmed, they're not providing you with the information, and you've done everything, then you have the right to start looking into an attorney if that's what you need to do. Okay. But this is the information that I wanted to provide. You can get this guide directly on my website. I'm only going to have it for, I think I'm going to do it for like $9.99. That's what I'm going to do it for. And I'm going to link this video to it as well, because it's really important that everybody start getting their information. So I think for the next month, I'll keep it at $9.99. And whenever I have things on my website and I update them, I allow you to have unlimited access to refreshing the information. So as I update and add more things to this, you'll be able to see any changes that I make to the document just by going in and re-downloading a copy of it. I do it all the time, even with my browser defense cheat sheet, anything that I add, because I give you unlimited access to it once you purchase it. So if there's any changes to it, you just go and update it. Just hit the update or the re-download it, and you'll be able to see a new copy on it. But for now, like I said,